In the far reaches of the Orion Arm, beyond the borders of known space, something strange began to stir. At first, it was only a whisper in the darkness, a flicker on long-range scanners, so faint that most dismissed it as a sensor glitch. But then it moved deliberate, fast, and impossibly smooth. Deep space observers from several species noticed the same thing, an object the size of a battleship, moving through the void with no visible propulsion, no heat signatures, and no response to any attempts at communication. The object was marked as unidentified and left alone, until a scout ship from the Zalari Dominion got too close and was never heard from again. That's when the fear began. The galaxy was full of conflict, old grudges between empires, and shifting alliances, but this, whatever it was, felt different. It wasn't an invasion or a message. It was a presence silent, unstoppable, and unknown. The ship was later identified as human in origin, which shocked the interstellar councils. Humanity, the so-called forgotten race, had not made any notable advancement in decades. Their worlds were peaceful, quiet, even boring compared to the vast militaries and empires that ruled the stars. No one had paid attention to them in years. They were considered curious, sometimes clever, but far from dangerous. So when this mysterious ship was confirmed to be human-made, the galaxy started asking the same question: how? No human ship had ever demonstrated such technology. This vessel, quickly named the Leviathan by worried officials, seemed to absorb energy readings, dodge tracking systems, and distort gravitational fields around it. Some thought it was an illusion, others believed it was a prototype gone rogue. But what no one could deny was this: it was moving closer to the center of the galaxy, and nothing could stop it. Several small alien fleets were sent to follow the Leviathan. None returned. Surveillance drones sent images before vanishing images of a dark metallic structure with strange markings etched into its hull. The ship had no windows, no weapons in sight, no signal to identify its crew or purpose. And yet, it continued to glide through space, unharmed and unbothered. Rumors spread faster than facts. Some believed it was a ghost ship haunted by artificial intelligence. Others thought it was a weapon built by a breakaway human faction. A few even claimed it was alive. But regardless of the theories, the reality was undeniable. Wherever this ship went, fear followed. Worlds began to strengthen their borders. The trade clans cut off routes near its path. Even the great warlords, who once laughed at human weakness, now held private meetings in underground bunkers, trying to understand what was coming. Humanity, once ignored, had suddenly become the center of attention. But there was no message, no announcement, and no sign of aggression. The Leviathan simply moved. That silence was what scared them the most. A warship can be reasoned with. A conqueror can be understood. But a silent force, a ship that did nothing yet inspired dread, was something else entirely. One council member from the Glock Empire described it best: "It does not speak. It does not blink. It only reminds us that we do not know everything." As the Leviathan crossed another system without slowing down, the galaxy began to shift. Old enemies called for alliances. Observatories pointed every telescope and sensor toward it. Deep inside the United Systems Assembly, a quiet vote passed a secret military alliance to prepare for an unknown threat. Billions of credits were poured into defense. New technologies were rushed. Fleets were moved. And all the while, the Leviathan kept moving, silent and alone. In a small observatory station near the edge of the Veltran expanse, a young alien technician named Errol watched the ship pass by. He recorded everything, hoping to catch something, anything that could explain its purpose. But all he got was the same silent presence, the same dark ship that refused to obey the rules of the universe. No lights, no weapons, no words, just the soundless hum of something far beyond what the galaxy understood. Errol, unlike others, didn't feel fear. He felt wonder. "It's not here to destroy us," he whispered. "It's here to remind us who we really are." But no one listened. The galaxy prepared for war, unaware that they might be preparing for the wrong thing. As the Leviathan disappeared into the black, heading straight for the center of galactic power, One truth began to settle across every world, every empire, and every fleet: the humans had built something and no one knew. The Galactic High Council had not met in full session for nearly 1,000 years. It was only called in moments of extreme crisis, when a star was collapsing, when an ancient weapon was discovered, or when the survival of the galaxy itself was at risk. This time, it was not a weapon they feared, but a mystery too powerful to ignore. Delegates from every major species arrived at the Grand Spiral Citadel, a massive structure floating between galaxies. Even bitter enemies, like the Friel and the Oltari, who had fought for centuries, arrived without guards, united by a fear neither of them could explain. The chambers, built from crystal and glowing stone, echoed with tension as each representative spoke in hushed voices, their eyes always drifting to the central screen that showed the image of the dark ship known as the Leviathan. No one knew what it wanted, where it was going, or what had built it. But its course was clear: it was moving straight toward the core of galactic civilization, passing through restricted zones, neutral sectors, and heavily defended systems without slowing down. The footage played again and again, ships vanishing near it, weapons having no effect, and scanners returning with data that made no sense. Gravity bent unnaturally around it, light dimmed near its hull, and in some cases, strange energy waves caused entire stations to go silent. One delegate from the Varn Collective broke the silence with a trembling voice, saying, "This is not just a ship, it is something else. Something that is watching." That single sentence changed the mood of the chamber. Fear turned to urgency. Dozens of species had once mocked humanity's slow progress in space. They had called humans emotional, chaotic, and unpredictable. And now, that same forgotten species had produced something that had the most powerful empires afraid to sleep. The supreme speaker of the council, a being made of shimmering energy named Solix, demanded order. Its voice echoed through every mind in the room without sound. "If we do not act now," it said, "we may not have another chance. We must understand what this Leviathan is, who controls it. We must prepare for the worst." The room erupted into argument. Some demanded immediate war. Others warned against provoking it. A few, mostly from peaceful systems, suggested opening communication with Earth to ask for answers. But the truth was, bitter Earth had gone quiet. No signals, no responses, no trace of life. It was as if the entire human race had vanished after building this ship. Theories were wild and terrifying. Some believed it was controlled by an AI so advanced it had become something new. Others claimed it was the soul of humanity, turned into a machine. One scientist even argued that the ship was not built, but born an evolutionary leap in spacefaring life. No matter the theory, one thing was clear: the galaxy had no idea what it was facing. The council voted, and for the first time in history, it passed with full agreement. A fleet would be formed. Not to destroy, not yet, but to follow. To watch. To prepare. It was called the Shield of Unity. Over 3,000 ships from more than 50 species, armed with every type of defense and weapon known. They would stay ahead of the Leviathan, study it, and if necessary, fight it. But deep down, many of them feared they would not stand a chance. Backroom meetings continued long after the official session ended. The Kralin warlords offered to use forbidden weapons. The Drax scientists proposed testing time-bending tech to slow the Leviathan down. The Silent Inari offered something stranger, a device that could speak to the ship, not with words, but with memory. It had only been used once, and that world had never been the same. Desperation was rising. In the privacy of their personal quarters, some delegates recorded final messages to their homeworlds, unsure if they would survive what was coming. But one among them, a small, quiet creature from the Knowledge Keepers of Solari, asked a different question. What if the Leviathan wasn't coming to fight? What if it was coming to judge? That question was not taken seriously, but it lingered in the minds of many. What if the ship's silence wasn't a threat, but a test? What if this was the humans' final message, not one of war, but of truth? Still, preparations for war continued. The Shield of Unity was launched within days, stretching like a wall of light across space. They didn't fire. Not yet. But their presence was a warning. The galaxy would not bow without resistance. Still, the Leviathan did not change course. It passed by star systems and ancient outposts with no hesitation, responding to nothing, simply moving forward. One of the Council's intelligence teams decrypted a signal embedded in the Leviathan's trail, hidden in particles of radiation left behind. It was a recording, short and mirror? What did it mean? Was the Leviathan reflecting something about the galaxy, about themselves? Or was it simply reminding them that their greatest enemy might not be the ship but their fear, their mistrust, their long history of war? Despite their advanced tech and ancient wisdom, the Galactic Council could not answer that. And as the Leviathan drew closer to the core worlds, where millions of species lived together, the pressure grew unbearable. Protests broke out. Trade stopped. Some systems shut their borders. The entire galaxy was holding its breath. But the Leviathan remained silent. And in that silence, the Council of Dread realized a terrible truth: they were not in control anymore. Something old, something powerful, and something human had returned to the galaxy. And whatever it wanted, they were not ready to face it. The Shield of Unity stood ready like a living wall in space, a force so massive it made the stars around them look small and forgotten. Thousands of ships floated together, lights blinking across their hulls, engines humming with raw energy, and weapons primed to fire. The commanders inside these ships came from different species, different beliefs, and different worlds, but they shared the same fear: an unknown enemy was approaching, and this was their only chance to stop it. At the center of the fleet, the lead ship, Titan's Edge, held the command council of the Shield. Inside, General Torvak of the Zarn led the meeting, his long limbs tapping the table nervously while he reviewed the reports. The Leviathan was now within range, moving slowly but without pause, heading directly toward the defense line like it didn't care what was waiting. No communication, no change in speed, just a steady advance as if nothing in the universe could stand in its way. A final attempt to reach it was made. The communication experts used every frequency known, every language used in the last 10,000 years, and even the ancient human dialects from Earth's early centuries, but there was no answer. No sign of life, no reaction. Just that same cold, endless approach. Then came the moment no one truly wanted but all had prepared for. The order was given. The fleet powered up its main cannons, drawing energy from entire moons to charge the weapons. The stars seemed to flicker as the first wave of attacks were launched. Beams of pure light, torpedoes of compressed gravity, missiles that could tear holes in reality itself, all fired at the Leviathan with deadly precision. For a few seconds, space was bright like day, filled with the soundless storm of war. But as the light faded and the echoes of the weapons vanished, the truth became clear. The Leviathan had not been scratched. The energy beams bent around it like water around a stone. The missiles never reached it, disappearing just before impact. Gravity weapons failed to even register. And worst of all, the Leviathan never stopped moving. It didn't react, didn't defend itself, didn't return fire. It just kept coming, completely untouched, as if it hadn't even noticed the most powerful attack the galaxy had ever united to deliver. Panic spread through the fleet. Some ships tried to fire again, adjusting their settings, boosting power beyond safe limits, but the results were the same. Nothing worked. Scientists screamed into their comms, shouting that the readings made no sense. The Leviathan's surface wasn't just metal. It was something that didn't obey physics, something that seemed to exist in multiple states at once. A few ships lost control of their systems just by being too close. One ship vanished entirely, its final message being, "We are looking into something that's looking back." General Torvak ordered a retreat from the front line, trying to regroup before more lives were lost. But even as the ships moved away, the Leviathan continued its path, never speeding up or slowing down. It ignored everything like it was above them all. On Titan's Edge, the command room was filled with fear. Some officers wanted to keep fighting. Others begged to run. One young technician, her voice shaking, asked a question that silenced the room. What if we were never meant to stop it? That thought changed everything. Maybe the Leviathan wasn't attacking. Maybe it was testing them. Maybe their first strike was not a battle, it was a question. And their failure was the answer. Across the galaxy, people watched the footage in horror. The idea of a single ship resisting a united fleet shattered their belief in power. Civilizations that had stood for thousands of years suddenly felt small. On distant worlds, religious leaders called the Leviathan a god. On military planets, leaders went silent. And on outlaw stations, even the most fearless pirates swore never to go near it. The fear was growing into something deeper, a helplessness the galaxy had never known. Back in the command ship, Torvak stood alone, staring at the Leviathan as it passed through the remains of the fleet like a shadow through mist. No weapons fired now. No more attacks. Only silence. For the first time in his life, Torvak didn't know what to do. And in that moment, he understood something terrible. The galaxy had prepared for war, but not for something it couldn't understand. The first strike had not only failed, it had shown them just how unprepared they truly were. The Leviathan, still without a word, moved on toward the heart of the galaxy. And behind it, the once proud shield of unity was left broken and silent, its greatest effort reduced to nothing by a ship that had not even noticed. Across every world, a single truth echoed like a warning. This was not a war they could win. This was something else. Something ancient. Something watching. And no one knew what for thousands of years. The galaxy believed that humanity was just another race among the stars, late to arrive and too fragile to truly matter in the long run. While ancient civilizations like the Vor, the Kellen, and the Tsar had already spread across dozens of systems and built wonders that touched the edge of science and magic, humans had only just discovered faster-than-light travel and begun expanding. But something about their rise unsettled the others. In just a few centuries, humans had gone from crawling on one planet to building ships that could bend gravity and survive black holes. While others moved slowly, holding on to tradition, humans adapted fast, learned faster, and fought like no other species had before. They didn't just survive, they improved with every loss, grew smarter with every defeat, and returned stronger after every disaster. This speed terrified the elder races, but they didn't understand how humans had done it. The truth was buried deep, far away from the galactic centers and glowing cities, hidden on a forgotten moon in a cold system. There, a secret lab existed, unknown to most humans and completely invisible to the rest of the galaxy. Only a few chosen scientists and military leaders knew what had been hidden there for centuries. Inside the moon, behind layers of protective fields and fake landscapes, was a chamber built around something ancient older than Earth, older than the stars themselves. It was a cube of unknown material, glowing softly, pulsing like a slow heartbeat. The cube wasn't human. It wasn't made by any known race. It had been discovered by accident during a mining operation on a different planet, then secretly moved and hidden for study. Every time scientists approached it, they learned something new, but the cube never responded directly. It simply existed. However, over time, they realized something strange. The cube was changing human thoughts. Those who spent time near it became more creative, more logical, and more fearless. They dreamed of machines that didn't yet exist and then built them. Their ideas reshaped science. Slowly, over decades, the cube was used to train leaders, design new weapons, and plan entire colonies. But it wasn't just about machines. The cube had a strange effect on human emotions. It made people less afraid of death. It made them push beyond limits. And it whispered thoughts, unspoken ideas that led to revolutions in biology, technology, and even war. Some scientists began to believe the cube wasn't a tool, it was a teacher. Or worse, it was a test. Was it guiding humanity or preparing it for something? No one knew. But every major jump in human progress had one common factor: someone connected to the cube. While the rest of the galaxy thought humans were just lucky or ruthless, the truth was they were being changed, molded by a power no one could fully understand. But secrets do not stay buried forever. A spy from the Tsar Empire, planted deep within human society, stumbled upon a trail that led to the moon. He never made it back alive, but before he died, he sent a fragment of data to his people. The message was incomplete, full of errors, but it was enough. The Tsar sent a stealth fleet to investigate, but none returned. Then the Kellen tried with a science team and vanished as well. Finally, a group of pirate mercenaries were paid to take the risk. They arrived on the moon, expecting an abandoned outpost or a hidden weapon. What they found was beyond anything they imagined. Most of them died within minutes of entering the cube chamber, some from madness, others from seizures caused by the cube's pulsing energy. The few who escaped had visions burned into their minds, visions of worlds ending, of ancient beings watching from dark space, and of humanity standing alone against a storm of stars. Word got out. Whispers spread across the galaxy. The humans had found something dangerous, and they were using it to rise. Some feared them. Others hated them. A few wanted to understand. But for humanity, the truth was more complex than anyone realized. The cube wasn't only changing humans, it was warning them. It showed them glimpses of a future where the galaxy burned, where great empires collapsed, and where only one species kept fighting until the end. Whether it was fate or manipulation, no one could say. But humans kept building, kept preparing, kept evolving. Their enemies believed they were fighting a race. They were wrong. They were challenging something more, an idea shaped by a mystery that went beyond logic. The secret of humanity's rise was never about weapons or war. It was about their mind, their will, their refusal to accept limits. And the cube had simply awakened what was already there. As the stars watched in silence, and as the old powers debated their next move, humanity stood ready, changed, focused, rising not by chance, but by a secret that had rewritten what it meant to be alive. Ancient Hall, built by a forgotten race that once tried to unite the stars, sat leaders from across the galaxy, warriors, emperors, scientists, and spies, all facing one unexpected figure, a human ambassador named Elias Korin. Humanity had come late to the galactic stage, but they had risen faster than anyone imagined. Now, after decades of war, fear, and misunderstandings, humans were no longer seen as newcomers. They were the deciding force, the one power strong enough to shift the balance. Many empires had tried to control them, others had tried to destroy them, but all had failed. Humanity's ships were strange, their strategies unpredictable. But what unsettled the others the most was not their weapons, it was their ability to unite, to adapt, and to forgive. Elias stood alone at the center of the council, wearing no armor, holding no weapon, but his voice carried the weight of a species that had seen too much suffering. He didn't speak of victory or threats. Instead, he spoke of the future of a growing darkness beyond the rim, a signal detected only by human deep space scanners, a cold pattern of sound from deep space that didn't match any known species. The others whispered, some laughed quietly, others shifted uncomfortably. They had dismissed those signals as static, or space storms, or errors. But humanity had listened longer, analyzed deeper, and what they found was terrifying, a message written in mathematical pulses, warning of an ancient force that would return to claim what it had lost, a force that once erased civilizations and wiped memory from history itself. Elias didn't ask for help. He offered a choice. Stand with humanity and prepare together, or continue as divided rivals and fall one by one. It wasn't an easy offer. Many species hated humans for past conflicts. Some envied their rise, and others feared what they might become if left unchecked. But Elias spoke not as a conqueror, but as a survivor. He reminded them of planets burned by war, of colonies lost to pride, of lives wasted because peace was always delayed. He didn't beg. He simply told the truth. The enemy coming didn't care about politics or history. It wanted silence. It had destroyed galaxies before, leaving behind empty systems and ghost signals that even time forgot. Humanity had seen its shadow and decided to act not with more war, but with unity. Some leaders still doubted, but a few remembered the old legends, stories of the starless void and the eaters of light, names that were once dismissed as myths. Now they sounded like warnings. The room fell quiet as Elias showed them the final transmission from a lost human scout ship near the edge of the galaxy. No screams. No explosions. Just a